Welcome to this discussion of the material in the Electronic Commerce Chapter 11. The electronic commerce is defined in your text as the practice of carrying out business transactions over computer networks in an effort to generate sales and improve organizational performance. However, if you've read the chapter, you know that there's a lot of other topics discussed there, including a lot of business activities that aren't directly related to sales, but that are more interested in building customer relations and improving the customer experience. So we're going to focus on a few of those, but we're going to begin with a discussion of the scope of electronic commerce. There are four basic models to the scope of the electronic commerce. The two most common ones, and the ones that we'll discuss first, are the business-to-business model and the business-to-consumer model. The business-to-business model is an e-commerce model that involves selling to another business. The focus then is not on selling to necessarily an end consumer unless that business is the end consumer of the product. The second option is the business-to-consumer, and this is the one that we're all most familiar with, being consumers. We're familiar with the idea of businesses selling directly to us. This short video has a discussion of the differences between B2B and B2C, but they also focus on how the differences occur in the areas of customer experience and the customer journey.
A customer's a customer, right?
Well, not so fast. There are some big differences between business buyers and consumers. These differences affect what's called the customer journey, the how and when customers make their decisions.
It also affects CX, or the customer experience, which is how customers interact with brands and businesses along their journey.
First, there's point of sale. For brands that sell to consumers, the buying process is a lot more direct, with far fewer influencers involved. The B2C transaction can take place online, in-store, or by phone. For the B2B transactions, on the other hand, there are a lot more people and processes involved. And B2B transactions often rely more on relationship building.
The sales cycle is a lot different too. On the B2C side, most purchases are often impulsive, depending on the price tag. But on the B2B side, sales processes are usually longer, weeks or even months, because it's usually decision by committee.
Despite the differences, B2B marketers can shorten the sales cycle.
How?
By paying closer attention to the customer journey and the customer experience.
Analytics, market research, and insights, all critical for your B2B buyers to understand your brand before the next sale.
The two remaining types of transactions are consumer to business and consumer to consumer. For the consumer to business, this usually occurs when an individual seeks to sell their products or services to a business. You could think of that as individuals who sell things to Amazon, which Amazon then turns around and retails out. This occurs when consumers, according to your text, this occurs when consumers also bid for products and services offered for sale by a firm. I'm not sure that others would agree on that definition, but consumer to business is definitely the first one when an individual seeks to sell products or services to a business. The other type is the consumer to consumer, and this, as the name implies, is consumers selling directly to other consumers. Your text says that this is not common in the hospitality and tourism industry. My question to you is this still true? When this textbook was written, that may have been true, but a lot has changed recently in the travel and tourism industry. Think about Airbnb and other organizations of that type, ride-sharing services and so forth. These are consumers that are offering their services to other consumers through an intermediary is handling the logistics of the transaction. This graphic by Digital Marketing Arts gives you a visual representation of the four different e-commerce models. Business to consumer, which is the one we most commonly think of, examples like Starbucks and Nike's providing services directly to the consumer. Business to business, There are some examples there of FedEx doing business for other businesses, Adobe, General Electric, so forth. Consumer to consumer, the examples they have there are eBay, and then one that's related more to the tourism industry, which is Uber. And then you have the consumer to business models as well, freelancers, Amazon, and so forth. An essential component of the e-commerce operations of an organization is their website or websites. This list here, introduced in your text, provides some of the basic uses of the website. The first two we think of most websites having, and that's the option to sell products and services or to provide customer service. But probably equally important, and maybe more important, are the other uses. For example, educating and informing potential customers. People often turn to websites for information and ideas before they ever start thinking about purchasing something. You can also offer discounts, which is a function of the sales, but you can also promote products, and you can improve your brand image. You can obtain customer information and build databases. This is an opportunity to start to establish a relationship with a customer and to have them develop a positive customer experience through all of their interactions with an organization. Your text offers some suggestions about what you can do to make sure that you have a quality website. Probably a function of the fact that this was written a number of years ago. You will see that most of the suggestions that they have here are fairly commonplace and are understood to be basic elements of website construction. But they suggest, for example, that you have a corporate logo on every page. This is tied closely with the number 4 on the list, which is that you should use a common style on every page. That logo and corporate identity and so forth needs to be incorporated into the style, and then that standard style template needs to be used throughout the page. You also need to include graphic links. You need to have a lot of links, and you need to make sure that the links download and you get the code pages text. You code the pages so that the text is displayed even before the graphics are downloaded. And then, of course, you want to have a navigation scheme that allows people to quickly move back to the home page or allows them to move to important sections or pages within the overall website. Since we are talking about e-commerce, an essential component is that we have the ability to conduct transactions on the website. Your text offers several suggestions for transactions. Most of these you will have seen in your transactions and your website online purchases. For example, they suggest that you need to itemize all costs for each line item, and that includes the number of items times the cost to give you a line item cost, and then have an overall total. You also need to discuss the delivery options that they have available and how that will impact the overall price. And then you do have the option to offer special discounts, and there's a lot of different sales techniques that use discounts, special codes, coupons, bonus and reward points, etc., to encourage sales and to encourage repeat business. It's common for individuals working in the marketing sector of an organization to be tasked with the job of critiquing the website, doing an analysis of the website, making sure that it's achieving as much as it possibly can. Your text offers a rudimentary sort of basic website analysis sheet on page 249. A copy of it is here to the right. If you look at that, some of the major categories they look for are company information. That includes the stylistic information, logos, taglines, etc., but as well as contact information, history of the organization, and so forth. The second category is products offered, and this is usually a major section. It includes all of the products, product lines, rates, special offers, discounts, etc. Transaction options for the sales. You also have support services. This would include a lot to do with extending the contact information. So in addition to knowing what their street address is, you would have maps that would direct you to it. You would have calendars describing upcoming events, special offers, and so forth. The final category is what your text calls the interactive functions. In terms of the customer experience, this is probably the most important section. In this section, you find information, but you also find the ability to interact with the organization. So you have search engine options available, you have multimedia, you may have a newsroom where information about news releases, what's going on in the organization is placed. You will have postings about job opportunities available within the organization. More recently, you're having greater use of artificial intelligence or possibly real human beings in a customer service role answering questions that you may have. So in terms of the usefulness of it, this section contains a lot of things beyond the basic information that are provided in the other major sections. In recent years, many people have written about the benefits of electronic commerce. Some of them are highlighted below, and these are the major benefits. The international reach, you're no longer constrained by geography. Cost reduction and supply chain improvements. You can reduce costs and pass those costs on to consumers. You have improved customer communications and relations. You can improve the customer experience and the customer relations of your organization. You can have updated materials available as soon as they're ready. You can be ubiquitous. You can have contact 24/7. You can be surround an individual and provide them a variety of options to interact with the organization. And then you can also provide instant delivery of some materials and provide instant confirmation of materials that you've ordered, as well as giving people the opportunity to track their order. The benefits described on the previous slide can be encapsulated in these three statements. Online or e-commerce is all about saving time, and with saving time, you therefore save money. It removes geographic and physical boundaries so that you can contact people whenever, however, and it allows for 24/7 customer service and sales. This short video describes how these e-commerce functions have affected the online travel industry in terms of online travel agencies.
Now, also in e-commerce, we have online travel agencies, companies like Expedia and Priceline, that have literally turned the travel industry upside down by making it incredibly convenient for travelers all over the world to compare airline seats, airline prices, airline destinations, hotel rooms, hotel prices. Anything that has to do with travel can now be very, very quickly and easily compared, priced out, and booked online. And companies that are providing airline seats and hotel rooms, that is the traditional travel companies themselves, are scrambling to try to find a way to stay relevant in terms of owning the customer. More and more, the online travel agency owns the customer and guides the customer in making that decision rather than brand loyalty to some airline or hotel line in particular.
Your text also outlines 7 major electronic commerce objectives. Most of these objectives won't be a surprise to you, and in fact, if you paid attention in the section where we were talking about doing the website analysis, you'll see a strong crossover here. So you can use a website to create brand awareness, to obviously sell products and services, but you can use it to generate interest, get people involved with the product. The interest can either be with the product or some promotions that you've got going on. A basic function of the website is to provide information, and that's one of the important functions of e-commerce. But e-commerce is also involved a lot in the customer experience and building customer relations, and that's where you get into the objective of brand loyalty. You can also use it to promote employment with the firm or to provide information about the firm's community service contributions or its corporate social responsibility initiatives. So those things like corporate social responsibility, building loyalty programs and reward programs, those are heavily invested in building a long-term relationship with the customer. Thank you for joining me for this quick discussion of e-commerce as it relates to the travel and tourism industry. I've only discussed some of the topics that are discussed in Chapter 11, so you want to make sure that you read that very closely. Some of the other major topics discussed in there were email practices as a part of the e-commerce function. They talked about types of electronic commerce business models. They also talked about selecting payment options and electronic commerce activities. So all of these and more are discussed in Chapter 11 in addition to the topics that I've talked about today. Remember that you always have the option of contacting me if you have any questions about what you've heard in this video or questions about any of the other class material. I'll do my best to answer them.